Yeah, and thank you so much for inviting me and making me a part of your IC, sir. It's a real honor and privilege for me. So I would be speaking to you all on tipping points in small pupil surgery and IFIS. No financial interest. So basically, the technical challenges of small pupil phacosurgery is because of the reduced visibility, which can end up having damage to the iris, having had a small CCC, having retained lens material, having difficulty in IOL placement. The problem gets compounded if you have a PC rupture. All in all, having a poor visual outcome and an unhappy patient. So basically, when you're talking about tipping points, we talk about smaller actions having bigger impact. So let's see in case of a small pupil, what would be our tipping points? So the first thing is in a pre-operative setting when you examine the patient. So you look at the age of the patient, decide whether if you have a small pupil, is it just a senile rigid pupil? Is it because the patient is uncontrolled diabetic? Or if there is some pseudo exfoliation? And if so, remember that you may have a zonular dehiscence or you may have a zonular weakness, which you may need to explain to the patient and you need to keep a CTR handy. You may have a patient giving history of medication, which may be because of benign prostatic hyperplasia, and hence you may need to remember that he may have IFIS. Look for posterior synechiae, which could be indications of recurrent iridocyclitis, uveitis. If there's old history of trauma or any glaucoma surgery or a patient of glaucoma who is on long-term myotics. The second tipping point comes in when you need to finally go ahead with surgery. So you need to fine tune your surgery not only with the help of your preoperative screening, but also look at the dilated pupil size and then mentally prepare yourself with a pupillary expander in your kitty when you're actually taking up the patient. Also remember to keep your phaco settings in such a way as to have a reduced vacuum and reduced flow rate, especially when you're going in for an IFIS patient, and keep materials like OVDs and expanders ready. So in this stepwise approach, you come to the first point where you probably need to break adhesions. And always first, whenever there are posterior synechiae, the first thing is you need to have a good synecholysis. Now, pupillary stretching is something which we may not do today, but this was a video many years ago. And in this patient, I went ahead without using a pupillary expander after doing a pupillary stretching, and I thought that the pupil was well dilated, adequate enough for me to go ahead with the surgery. So when you have a pupil like this, which is just around 5 millimeters, it basically all depends on the skill of the surgeon, the iris tissue properties. So here you have to be careful not to hold on to the pupillary edge with the phaco probe. Even though the size of the CCC may be smaller, you can go ahead and do a good surgery. Now, this was the first day post-op. Patient did well. Now, another tipping point is keeping intracameral agents ready, like Phenokin Plus today, which is the new kid on the block and is usually giving us very good results, and OVDs like Helon 5, where you can also use the tri-shell technique. Now, this was a patient where we had a phenokin assisted cataract with vitrectomy. This patient had an allergy to tropicamide, and here, as you can see, we are using phenokin, and within 8 to 10 seconds, you can see that you have a very good, well-dilated pupil and without any problems of allergies post-op. So why I'm specifically showing you this case is not just for the cataract, but we also did a complete vitrectomy in this patient with just Phenokin Plus. So today we are having greater and greater ways and beautiful ways by which we can make our surgeries much better and enhance patients' visual outcomes as well as their comfort without having had to expose them to allergic problems. Now, this was the end of the surgery, a routine surgery because now the pupil is very well dilated, and this was a three-port vitrectomy for the patient. Now, another tipping point comes when you have to decide about using an expander, pupillary expanding device. Now, the most commonly that we have used is the iris hooks, the Melugan ring, and the BX ring. Now, for example, now this is both two eyes of the same patient having pseudo exfoliation. The one on the left is without iris hooks. When I did this first eye, I thought that the pupil was adequate enough for me to go ahead without a pupillary expander. The only problem in such patients is you have to remain right in the center with the phaco probe. As you can see, the pupil is coming down, and sometimes you can end up having problems. So you need to be really patient. Sometimes you may need to use epitrate or good viscoelastic at every step so as to give a better pupillary size and dilate it as much as possible mechanically. But if you are careful enough, even when you're doing an irrigation aspiration, be just at the tip. See that you do not hold on either to the pupillary edge or to the rhexis edge, so that you don't end up having a zonular dialysis or a pupil which is touched keeps coming down again and again. However, in the other eye, I thought that the pupillary size was very less. So I decided not to have too much of stress, and I decided to have I use iris hooks. So the only problem with iris hooks is that you need 4 extra side ports. And with each of these side ports, be very careful in putting in these polypropylene hooks. However, one thing you need to be careful is do not actually pull on them too much, because the moment you pull on them too much and go exact right up to the limbus, you may end up damaging the pupillary sphincter, and then that causes an irregularity in the pupillary in the pupil shape when you're seeing them post-op. Once you have all these 4 iris retractors in place, you have a very good adequately opened up pupil for the rest of the procedures. Once the IOL is in place, you very gently remove the protector and then go in and remove the iris hooks very gently. And here you can see how the pupil sphincter has been damaged, and this can cause a lot of glare to the patient. Now, this was a very interesting patient, a one-eyed patient with an anterior chamber depth of just 1.7 millimeters, and here a glaucoma patient where we used a Malugin ring. Now, a Malugin ring is basically extremely handy in such cases, and it has 4 scrolls which you can gently put into even a 2.2 millimeter incision nowadays. And each of this scroll is then kept along the pupillary margin very, very gently. First the leading one, and then the trailing, and then the nasal and the temporal. And once that is put, all the other steps of the cataract surgery, including the IOL implantation, become very easy. When you're removing it, you just hook on to the one of the scrolls and then pull it out. However, you first gently need to release them from the pupillary margin. Now you have the BX pupillary expander here today. And this was a patient where, very interestingly, we thought that the pupil was good enough. We went ahead with the CCC, but you can see here now in what happens. Once the CCC was done, I thought we would just go ahead with the hydrodissection and for the treatment. Now you can see how, unfortunately, the pupil just came down for no reason. In spite of using Epitrate and Phenocan Plus, the pupil absolutely didn't open up at all. So in this case, we went ahead and used a BHEX. Now the BHEX can be used with a 23 gauge forceps. It's a very, very gentle, flexible ring which can be used easily even through the side port, and it can be kept used also along with the Sinskey hooks. Once the 3 flanges are underneath the iris, it can make life much easier, and very easily it can be removed also once the IOL has been put inside the eye. All you need to do is just hold on to the BX ring and then remove it. In the IFIS, it's basically iris that billows in response to even normal irrigating currents, propensity for prolapse and progressive constriction, basically due to tamsulosin and alpha-1 receptor antagonist. It basically has atrophy of the dilator muscles, as you can see here. Basically, you can use topical atropine sulfate pre-op, viscoadaptives like Helon 5. What does not work, however, is stopping Flomax, pupillary stretching, and sphincterotomies. Do not overfill the OVDs. This was a patient with floppy iris where we used a multifocal IOL and the patient did well. This was the post-op day 1. I think we are already beyond time. This was another patient with very, very small pupils, and there was a total membrane in the pupillary area. And finally, we used a BHEX ring, and at the end of the surgery, the patient did really well. This was the post-op. Patient vision was 6/9. So these are various pupillary expanding devices that you can use. And to conclude, all the use of these expanders can help you give good visual outcomes even in problems with small pupils and IFIS. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Managa. And that was a nice